She vanished like smoke. On a humid June night in 2012, Alyssa Morales, a bright and spirited 19-year-old from Reading, Pennsylvania, walked out of her apartment after a minor disagreement with her roommate and never came back. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't unusual, just a small argument about cleaning or noise, one of those trivial things roommates fight about and forget the next morning. But that morning never came. Alyssa grabbed her phone, her hoodie, and walked out the door. She said she needed to clear her head, maybe go for a walk. And that's all it was supposed to be. A walk, a breath of air, maybe a trip to the nearby convenience store. But hours passed. Her roommate called her once, then twice, straight to voicemail. By the next morning, panic crept in. Calls to Alyssa's phone went unanswered. Her social media went silent. Her parents were notified. A missing persons report was filed within 48 hours. The police took the case seriously. She wasn't the type to disappear. There were no signs of a struggle at the apartment, no activity on her bank account, no witnesses who remembered seeing her after 9 p.m. The only trace? Her phone had pinged at a rest stop near Interstate 78 about 20 minutes from her home that night, then nothing. As though she'd just evaporated into the thick Pennsylvania air. Flyers were made, distributed, and posted across the state. Her mother, Janine, went on local news channels pleading for help. There were leads, some false, some hopeful, but none conclusive. One gas station clerk claimed a girl matching Alyssa's description had come in a few days later to buy snacks. The footage was reviewed, but honestly the resolution was just too poor to make anything out. Another tip said she'd been seen at a rest area restroom, but by the time police arrived, there was no sign of her. The trail froze. Her family organized search parties and combed the woods near the last phone ping. A few cigarette butts, footprints, and a discarded hoodie were all that turned up. Nothing definitive, just scraps. And among those scraps, something small, a cigarette butt near a wooded path just 2 miles from the last known ping, was logged, bagged, and well, forgotten. Back then, in 2012, forensic DNA tech wasn't what it is today. Cold cases stayed cold for a reason, and Alyssa's file was gradually buried beneath the weight of time and newer tragedies. The years ticked by, 1, then 3, then 10. Her parents aged under the burden of not knowing. Birthdays passed without candles, Christmas dinners grew quieter, the world moved on, but Janine and her husband David couldn't. They refused to declare her dead. They left her room untouched, like a time capsule. Then, in 2025, 13 years after Alyssa disappeared, her name resurfaced in a cold case task force review. Pennsylvania's state police had begun a new initiative, reopening unsolved disappearances using modern forensic genealogy. The task force included seasoned detectives, tech experts, and lab scientists with access to powerful databases that didn't even exist a decade ago. Alyssa's file was intact. Notes, evidence bags, maps, and one key entry, a cigarette butt recovered near the trailhead where her phone had last pinged. It had been cataloged, but never tested. The brand was noted, but, there was no urgency back then. In 2012, if a sample didn't match someone in CODIS, it just hit a wall. But not in 2025. Lab techs extracted DNA from the old cigarette. They ran it through CODIS. No match. But then they took it further, using public genealogy sites like GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. It started small, a cousin in Ohio, then a second match in Michigan, then a triangulated branch connecting both to a Pennsylvania family. One name emerged at the center, Richard Delaney. At first glance, Delaney was ordinary. No criminal record. A 47-year-old former delivery truck driver, semi-retired, living in a quiet town 2 counties away. He had a work history, paid his taxes. But the task force wasn't looking for red flags. They were looking for patterns. Delivery logs from 2012 showed he worked routes near Alyssa's apartment complex. He also owned a cabin near the trailhead where the cigarette was found. Investigators staged an informal visit. 2 plainclothes officers knocked on his door, posing as detectives revisiting a tip. Delaney was calm, even helpful. When asked if he smoked, he casually pulled out a cigarette pack, the same brand recovered at the 2012 scene. He lit one, smoked half, then flicked the butt onto the lawn. That act triggered a silent green light. A forensic team stationed nearby retrieved the butt, processed it within 48 hours, and confirmed what the team feared but needed: an exact DNA match to the 2012 sample. With probable cause in hand, police obtained a warrant. They raided Delaney's cabin that weekend. The place appeared clean, until they discovered a hidden crawl space beneath the floorboards. Inside, there was a sealed box containing newspaper clippings about Alyssa's case, her missing posters, a pink hoodie identified by her mother, and, a disposable camera. The camera held undeveloped film. It was rushed to a lab. When processed, the images sent a chill through everyone in the room. They showed a young woman, clearly restrained, tied to a bedpost in a dimly lit room. Her face was bruised. Her expression, well, it was panicked. A date stamp read, June 17, 2012, 3 days after Alyssa vanished. Forensic facial analysis confirmed what detectives already knew in their gut. The woman was Alyssa, still alive, at least for a short time after her disappearance. When confronted with the DNA, the photos, and the clippings, Richard Delaney cracked. At first he stuttered, denied, shifted blame, but under interrogation he confessed. What he said chilled detectives to their core. He claimed it wasn't planned, that he saw her walking alone and something, snapped. He offered her a ride, said she looked upset. She accepted. He drugged her drink with sleeping pills from his glove box. She woke up in his cabin. For days he kept her there, feeding her, silencing her, photographing her. When the news spread, he panicked. He claimed she choked during a struggle, that it wasn't supposed to happen. But, the evidence told another story, a violent one. An autopsy conducted after remains were discovered on Delaney's property showed signs of blunt force trauma and evidence of long-term restraint. Her body had been buried in a shallow grave behind the cabin, beneath layers of leaves and trash. Time had tried to erase her, but the earth didn't forget. The trial began in mid-2025 and, honestly, captivated the nation. For once, Alyssa's case made national headlines. Cold case cracked by a cigarette led news broadcasts. True crime podcasts dissected every detail. Courtrooms overflowed. Janine and David sat in the front row holding hands. They listened to everything. The forensic breakdown, the confession tapes, the testimonies. The jury took just 3 hours. Delaney was found guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and abuse of a corpse. He was sentenced to life without parole. Janine wept, not because she was relieved, but because the waiting was over. 13 years of questions finally had an answer. Her daughter hadn't run away. She hadn't overdosed or started a new life. She had been taken, silenced, hidden in plain sight. But justice, slow, relentless, and stubborn, had caught up. What shocked people wasn't just the horror of the crime, it was honestly how close it came to remaining unsolved. If that cigarette had been tossed into a ditch, if the lab tech hadn't processed it, if the genealogical match hadn't triangulated, the case might have stayed buried, and Richard Delaney might have died a free man. Instead, that one cigarette butt outlived its smoker, outwitted time, became the final witness in a case that nearly faded into silence. Alyssa's story sparked reform. Cold case units across the country received renewed funding. Several other disappearances in Pennsylvania were reopened using forensic genealogy. Within months, 3 more arrests were made. The ripple effect was undeniable. Technology had changed the rules. No longer could time erase every trace. The smallest evidence, a hair, a drop of sweat, a cigarette filter, could shout louder than any witness. The story of Alyssa Morales became a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of what perseverance can uncover. Her parents, once broken by grief, now speak publicly about the importance of DNA research, evidence preservation, and, never giving up. Schools teach her case in criminal justice courses. Podcasts retell her story to new generations. And though Alyssa didn't survive, her name now lives on. Not as a victim, but as the reason other victims are finally being found. The world may have forgotten her, but justice didn't. And a single puff of smoke became the breath that spoke her name one last time. Subscribe for more true crime cases that prove the truth can stay buried, but only for so long. Comment if you believe cold cases deserve cold science. Like and share to keep these stories alive. Because, well, silence never solved anything.